SIL said I was too fat to have a natural birth. After I kicked her out of my delivery room, she turned my whole family against me. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah, and I need to share what happened to me during what should have been the most beautiful day of my life. I'm still shaking as I type this, but I need to get this story out because I can't believe how toxic some people can be, especially when they're supposed to be family. So, let me start from the beginning. I'm 28, married to my husband Jake for 3 years, and we'd been trying to get pregnant for about a year and a half. When we finally got that positive test, we were over the moon. Jake's family seemed excited too. At least, that's what I thought at the time. Now, I need to be honest here. I'm not a size 2. I'm a curvy woman, always have been. I'm 5'6" and was around 180 pounds when I got pregnant. My doctor said I was perfectly healthy. My blood pressure was good, no diabetes, no complications. She told me I could absolutely have a natural birth if that's what I wanted, and it was. I'd always dreamed of having a natural childbirth experience. But Jake's sister, Emma, had other ideas. From the moment she found out I was pregnant, she started making comments. Oh, you'll probably need a C-section with your build. Bigger women usually have complications. Are you sure you should be eating that? It was constant, and it was wearing me down. Jake would defend me sometimes, but other times he'd just change the subject or say, Emma's just worried about you. Worried about me? She was tearing down my confidence every chance she got. The worst part was that Emma had given birth to her daughter 2 years earlier via C-section, but not by choice. She'd wanted a natural birth too, but her baby was breech and it was medically necessary. I think she was projecting her disappointment onto me, but that doesn't excuse what she did. As my pregnancy progressed, Emma got worse. She'd send me articles about obesity and pregnancy risks. I wasn't even obese. She'd make comments at family dinners about how I was eating for 3 instead of 2. She even suggested I should just schedule a C-section because it would be safer for everyone. The breaking point came when I was about 35 weeks pregnant. We were at Jake's parents' house for Sunday dinner, and Emma started going on about how I should be realistic about my birth plan. She said, and I quote, Sarah, you need to face facts. Women your size just aren't built for natural childbirth. You're setting yourself up for disappointment and putting the baby at risk. I lost it. I told her she needed to stop commenting on my body and my pregnancy, that my doctor was perfectly happy with my health and my birth plan, and that her opinions weren't welcome. She got all huffy and said she was just trying to help and that I was being sensitive. Jake's parents didn't say anything. They just sat there while their daughter tore me down, and my husband gave me that look like I was the one causing drama. That should have been my first red flag about what was coming. Fast forward to my due date. I went into labor naturally at 39 weeks and 4 days. My contractions started around 6 a.m., and by noon, they were getting pretty intense. Jake and I headed to the hospital, and I was so excited. This was it. I was finally going to meet my baby and prove Emma wrong in the process. The labor was progressing normally. I was dilating, the baby's heartbeat was strong, and my doctor was really encouraging. I had decided I wanted Jake and my mom in the delivery room with me. That was it, just the 2 people who had been most supportive throughout my pregnancy. But then, around hour 8 of my labor, guess who showed up at the hospital? Emma. She'd apparently been texting Jake throughout the day, and when he told her I was in active labor, she decided to drive the 2 hours from her house to be there for the birth of her niece. I was in the middle of a contraction when she walked into my room like she owned the place. How are we doing, Mama? She said, like she had every right to be there. I was so focused on managing the pain that I couldn't even respond at first. When the contraction ended, I looked at Jake and said, What is she doing here? He looked uncomfortable and said Emma just wanted to support us. Support us? The woman who had spent 9 months telling me I was too fat to give birth naturally. I told Jake I wanted Emma to leave. This was supposed to be an intimate moment between us and my mom. I didn't want someone who had been so negative about my pregnancy and my body in the room while I was at my most vulnerable. Emma overheard and said, "Oh, come on, Sarah, don't be dramatic. I'm family. I have every right to be here for my niece's birth." "No," I said, "you don't. This is my birth, my choice, and I want you to leave." That's when Emma showed her true colors. She looked at me and said, "You know what? You're being selfish and unreasonable. After everything you've put this family through with your unrealistic expectations, the least you can do is let me be here. Besides, when you end up needing that C-section because you're too stubborn to admit you're not built for this, someone needs to be here to think clearly." I saw red. Even in the middle of labor, even with another contraction starting, I found the strength to look her dead in the eye and say, "Get out. Get out of my room right now, or I'm calling security." Jake tried to mediate. "Sarah, maybe we can all just—" "No," I interrupted. "Jake, either she leaves right now, or you both leave. I'm not doing this with her here." My mom, bless her, stood up and opened the door. "Emma, you need to go, now." Emma left, but not before saying, "Fine, but don't come crying to me when this all goes wrong because you wouldn't listen to reason." The rest of my labor was beautiful. Without Emma's negative energy in the room, I was able to focus on what my body was doing. My mom held one hand, Jake held the other, and after 14 hours of labor, I delivered my perfect, healthy 7-pound baby girl naturally. No complications, no C-section, just exactly the birth I had dreamed of. I was exhausted but triumphant. I had done it. I had proved Emma wrong, proved that my body was capable of exactly what I knew it was capable of. Jake was crying, my mom was crying, and I was holding my beautiful daughter, thinking that life couldn't get any better. But then the real nightmare began. Within hours of giving birth, Jake's phone started blowing up. Emma had apparently gone straight to Jake's parents' house and told them that I had kicked her out of the hospital and denied her the chance to meet her niece because I was having some kind of emotional breakdown. She didn't mention the months of body shaming. She didn't mention her comments about me being too fat to give birth naturally. She didn't mention that she had called me selfish and stubborn while I was in active labor. She just told them that I was being unreasonable and keeping the family away from the baby. Jake's parents called him upset, asking why I wouldn't let Emma in the delivery room. His brother called. His aunt called. Suddenly, I was the villain in this story, and Emma was the victim who just wanted to support her family. The worst part? Jake started to waver. Instead of standing up for me and explaining what Emma had actually said and done, he started saying things like, "Maybe you were a little harsh, and she is the baby's aunt, and family is important." I couldn't believe it. I had just given birth to our child, naturally, exactly like I said I would. And instead of celebrating with me, my husband was making me feel guilty for setting boundaries with his toxic sister. It got worse over the next few days. Emma started a whole campaign against me on social media. She posted about how heartbroken she was to be excluded from her niece's birth by her difficult sister-in-law. She didn't tag me or mention me by name, but anyone who knew our family knew exactly what she was talking about. Jake's extended family started taking sides. Some of them reached out to Jake saying I was controlling and that he needed to handle his wife. Others said Emma was probably just excited to meet the baby and I should give her another chance. Nobody asked for my side of the story. Nobody wanted to hear about the months of comments about my weight and my body. Nobody cared that Emma had called me selfish and stubborn while I was in labor. I was just the difficult daughter-in-law who was keeping the family away from the baby. The breaking point came about a week after we brought the baby home. Jake's parents called and said they were coming to visit and meet their granddaughter, and they were bringing Emma. I told Jake absolutely not. I wasn't ready to see Emma yet, especially not in my own home while I was still recovering from childbirth. Jake said I was being unreasonable. She's my sister, Sarah. She's not going to hurt the baby. You can't keep my family away forever. I'm not keeping your family away, I said. Your parents can come anytime. Emma can meet the baby when she apologizes for how she treated me during my pregnancy and during labor. She's not going to apologize, Jake said. That's just how Emma is. You know she didn't mean anything by it. And that's when I realized that Jake was never going to have my back. His sister could treat me however she wanted, and he would always find a way to excuse it or minimize it. I was supposed to just take it because that's how Emma is. So I told him fine. If Emma came to our house, the baby and I wouldn't be there. I would take our daughter and go to my mom's house until Emma left. Jake called my bluff. The next day, his parents and Emma showed up at our door. I packed a diaper bag, put the baby in her car seat, and left. I went to my mom's house and stayed there for 3 days. Jake was furious. He kept calling and texting, saying I was being childish and that I was using the baby as a weapon against his family. His parents were apparently very upset that they didn't get to meet their granddaughter because of my tantrum. But you know what? Those 3 days at my mom's house were peaceful. Nobody was criticizing my parenting choices. Nobody was making comments about my postpartum body. Nobody was making me feel like I had to justify my decisions about my own child. It was just me, my baby, and my mom, who had been nothing but supportive throughout this whole ordeal. When I came home, Jake and I had a huge fight. He said I was tearing his family apart and that I needed to apologize to Emma for embarrassing her at the hospital. He said if I didn't make things right with his family, our marriage was going to suffer. I told him that Emma owed me an apology, not the other way around. I told him that if he couldn't see how toxic his sister's behavior had been, then maybe our marriage was already suffering. We've been in counseling for the past month, trying to work through this. The counselor has helped Jake see some of what I've been dealing with, but he still thinks I should extend an olive branch to Emma for the sake of family harmony. Emma, meanwhile, has doubled down. She's been telling anyone who will listen that I'm unstable and controlling, and that she's worried about the baby. She's even suggested that maybe Jake should consider whether I'm fit to be a mother if I'm going to keep the baby away from family over nothing. The most infuriating part of all of this is that I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I had the natural birth that Emma said was impossible for someone my size. I proved her wrong in the most definitive way possible. But instead of acknowledging that, she's found new ways to make me the villain. I've been getting pressure from Jake's whole family to be the bigger person and reach out to Emma. They say I'm being stubborn and that I'm hurting everyone by prolonging this conflict. They act like Emma's months of body shaming and her behavior during my labor were just minor misunderstandings, while my decision to set boundaries is the real problem. I'm exhausted. I'm a new mom trying to figure out breastfeeding and sleep schedules and all the normal new baby stuff. And instead of having support from my husband's family, I'm dealing with this drama. I spend half my time defending decisions that should be obvious, like not wanting someone who has consistently treated me poorly in my delivery room. The hardest part is that I can see how this is affecting Jake. He loves his family, and he hates that there's conflict, but he also loves me and our daughter, and I need him to understand that protecting us from toxic behavior isn't creating drama. It's being a good husband and father. I know some people will read this and think I should just apologize to Emma and move on, that I should prioritize family peace over my own feelings. But I keep thinking about my daughter. What kind of example am I setting if I teach her that she should accept mistreatment from family members just to keep the peace? What am I showing her about standing up for herself and setting boundaries? I refuse to apologize for advocating for myself during one of the most important moments of my life. I refuse to pretend that Emma's behavior was acceptable just because she's family, and I refuse to let anyone make me feel guilty for protecting my child and myself from someone who has shown repeatedly that she doesn't respect me. So here I am, 6 weeks postpartum, still dealing with the fallout from kicking my sister-in-law out of my delivery room. My husband's family still thinks I'm the problem. Emma is still playing the victim, and I'm still waiting for someone in Jake's family to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, the person who spent 9 months body shaming a pregnant woman and then called her selfish while she was in labor might be the one who needs to apologize. I don't know how this is all going to end. I hope Jake and I can work through this in counseling. I hope his family eventually sees Emma's behavior for what it really was. And I hope that someday my daughter grows up in a family where setting healthy boundaries is respected, not punished. But right now, I'm just taking it one day at a time, focusing on my beautiful baby girl, and trying not to let other people's toxicity steal the joy from this incredible time in my life. Because at the end of the day, I did it. I had the birth I wanted. I stood up for myself when it mattered, and I have a healthy, perfect daughter to show for it. And that's something no amount of family drama can take away from me. Thanks for listening to my story. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have any of you dealt with toxic in-laws during pregnancy or after having a baby? How did you handle it? And please, be kind. I'm still pretty raw about all of this, but I needed to share because I know I can't be the only one who's been through something like this. Take care, everyone.